Hi, everyone, and welcome back to episode 7 of A Brand New Actor. I'm your host, Deanna Gamboa. Today, we're going to be helping you to make sense of your acting career. Today, we're diving into something that most seasoned actors don't like and get a little nervous about taxes. Yeah, you heard me. Don't worry, I'll make it fun, and I promise it'll be easy to understand so you don't end up crying about your taxes at the end of the year. By the way, everyone, happy holidays, and whether you're binge watching your favorite holiday movies or just hanging out at home or on set, wherever you are, I hope you're enjoying your downtime. But as we near the end of the year, there's one thing we can't ignore. The tax season is among us. First things first, what is the difference between a W-2 form and a 1099 form? Well, if you're not familiar with these terms, do you recall starting a job and receiving forms to fill out with important information like your social security? And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember it. I have to call my mom. Yeah, those forms. Let's start with the very basics. So first up, the W-2. This is the form you receive when you're an employee of a company. I work for a theater, so I am a part-time employee and receive a W-2 form. This could apply also if you are working for a theater, for a production studio, even some television and film-based projects that are long, extended periods of time. Just always ask if you are considered an employee and you're eligible to receive a W-2 form. Here's the good part. With a W-2, taxes are already taken out of your paycheck. That's right. You don't have to worry at the end of the year to save money for tax time. It's already done for you. Well, sort of. So when you look at your paycheck, you'll see these lovely little things called tax deductions. So you're paying taxes up front every paycheck before you even receive your money. And I know it's not the most exciting thing to see on your pay stub, but it's a relief at the end of the year, truly. So how does it work? Every time you get paid, you'll see a line that says gross payment. This is the total amount you earned before the taxes were deducted. I have a theory that it's called gross income because it's just gross. It's gross to compare how much you earned with your hard work, your sweat and your tears. And then they take out the taxes and you're like, what is this? This is so gross. It's just a working theory. However, you'll see those tax deductions like Social Security, Medicare, federal taxes, and if you're lucky, even state taxes. Some states have higher taxes than others, and some states don't have any at all. So just take that into consideration depending on where you work. Now let's talk a little more about how much you actually pay. And this is the part that I need you to really listen to because it's kind of confusing. So the amount depends on your tax bracket. What's a tax bracket? Well, go on to the IRS official website, find out which tax bracket you fall under because that's going to determine how much you're actually going to pay. Your tax bracket is based on your annual income and whether you filed as single, married, or head of household. And no, the tax rate is not the same for everyone. Thankfully, too, it's progressive. What the heck is that? I don't know. I had to figure it out in my journey of taxes. A progressive tax means that you don't pay the same percentage on all of your income. So if your tax bracket is, you fall in the range of like 50K and you have to pay 22%, doesn't mean that you're going to pay 22% on that whole 50K income. Because remember, there are times of the year that you make more money than others. So it's not fair. So it's a progressive tax. And yes, the mysterious progressive tax. Basically, you pay different rates depending on how much you earn. If you make 50K in a year, you're going to be taxed the first chunk 10%, then the second chunk 12%, and finally 22%. Let's put a little example into numbers. So, first 11,000, 10% of tax. Next 33,000, $5,725, 12% tax. And lastly, $5,725, you're going to be taxed 22%. So you're paying 22% only on the last 5,000. See? Not the whole entire income. It's not as scary as it sounds, and I hope that is very clear. All right, now on to the 1099. This is the form that you get when you're an independent contractor, which, let's face it, this is very common for actors. This is all of your gig work. Think of your commercial work, voiceovers, occasional freelance gigs when you're not an actual official employee of a company. So here's the part that's a little scary if you don't plan. When you get paid via 1099, no taxes are automatically withheld from your paycheck. So you might get a big check and you're thinking, just roll on in the money. But then you realize, oh wait, I owe IRS at the end of the year. Yeah, taxes aren't fun when they creep up on you, but don't worry, we have some tips to help you prepare. So what does that mean for you as an actor? You can get both W-2 and 1099 forms in the same year. For example, you can be an employee of a theater company like myself, and that would mean you would get what? A W-2 form. But then you could do some freelance commercial work like I do. So that has to do with my 1099 form. So the key takeaway here is that the W-2 income, your taxes are handled for you. 1099 income, you're the one who has to take care of it at the end of the year because no one's going to do it for you. And understanding the difference between these forms is essential to tax planning. If you have more than one 1099 income, you need to be ready to set aside money throughout the year for taxes. Because, well, like I said, no one's going to do it for you. And remember what I said, since day one, you are a business and you need to start acting like one. But don't worry, I'm not perfect. I have learned a whole lot along the way, and that's why I'm sharing them tips with you. If you're getting paid through 1099s, remember to save about 25 to 30% for taxes. It's not your money to spend until the tax season is over. So to make it easier, I recommend just setting the money aside into a bank account, even a high yield bank account, preferably. That's just a key tip there. So that way your money can grow and work for you. Just set it aside. That way you don't feel like at the end of the year, a huge chunk of money is just getting taken out of your account. You already have it there and ready to go. And speaking of self-employment, there's a tax for that too. So don't be surprised to get hit with another 15% of tax. It's your contribution to Social Security and Medicare since you don't have an employee or an employer to split it with. Well, come tax time, you'll get the 1099 form back for each client who paid you $600 or more, and you need to report all of these. But now let's talk about the fun part. At least it's my favorite, write-offs. These are the things that you can deduct from your taxable income. Think of it as trimming the fat off of your paycheck so you don't end up paying taxes on money you didn't actually keep. These would be considered, expenses that you had to make for your career, and they're like losses, right? So here's a breakdown of some common write-offs for actors. Headshots. You got some headshots this year? Write it off. Acting classes, training, your fees for your agents, which is typically 10%, or your manager fees for 15%. Audition costs, if you had to get yourself somewhere, via train, flight, you name it. If you had to pay for parking, tolls, hallelujah, in Florida. You had to travel out of town for whatever reason. If you Uber or used Lyft to go to your auditions, costumes, wardrobe that you needed for auditions. Any home office studio supplies. This backdrop I just bought, and I bought a bunch of other things for my home studio for self-taping. That's all things that you can just write off at the end of the year. Your ring light, whatever, everything. Union dues, if that applies to you. Publicity and promotion. So, your website, I have a fee every month that I have to pay for my website to be up. Business cards, actor profiles, and my favorite, casting services. I love writing that off. Those subscriptions to Backstage, to Casting Network, to Actors Access, and whatever else you subscribe to. Just write it off. What doesn't qualify though? As tempting as it may sound, personal expenses like groceries or everyday clothes aren't deductibles. You can't just write off your Netflix subscription and be like, that's research. No, you can't do that. On the contrary, I can write off Apple Music. But why? I use it as a freelance gig worker, my Apple Music, for my parties. And yeah, you're like, oh, okay, you could just use YouTube. No, I can't. I have to use some type of Apple Music or Spotify in which I don't have commercials. And typically, if you don't want commercials, what do you need to do? You need to subscribe and pay a monthly fee. So I am required to have it for my job. Hence, I can write it off. Versus Netflix, which is more of an entertainment source, and you can't write it off as something like I'm doing research. They don't buy that. And remember, the IRS loves details. So keep all of your receipts, track your mileage, and use an accounting app or just manually write it down. Just any way that you can stay organized and on top of all of that. Let me tell you about my accounting process. It's fair. This year, though, I decided that I wanted to be more organized about my approach in January of 2024. And so I bought myself this receipt expansion file, and it's labeled every month: January, February, March, April through December. And I have just stuffed all of my receipts in there. And I think a pro tip is just to keep that in the car, because sometimes I would just have a pile of receipts in my car and I'm like, dang it, I gotta put it in there. And I would forget, especially after like the first few months of being super organized. You know how it is at the beginning of the year. You want to do everything so good, and then that just comes crumbling down. So eventually, yeah, I had too many receipts in my car. So I think just having it in the car, just so you can store it once you have a receipt, makes it super easy. That way nothing gets lost, and I could just stay on top of everything. And then on a monthly basis, I purchased as well this budget planner. It's like an agenda looking thing to log in all of my expenses, which was very tedious, I have to say. But I categorized them as personal expenses versus business related expenses. And I even had subcategories, for that, like wardrobe, or this is you know, I don't know, a subscription or things like that, just so I knew what type of business related category it pertained to. And I really like the planner, and I like the idea of just writing it down and reflecting and seeing my spending habits, not just as an actor, but also like my personal spending habits. And it definitely made me realize how much I was spending at Starbucks and how I was making less bucks by doing that. So if you're interested, I will definitely link these two items on my page. They're from Amazon, super affordable. However, I know that, paper methods aren't for everyone, but there are digital tools that can make this process even easier. So this year, I'm going to be trying out this app called Wave Accounting to track my mileage, my receipts, and expenses. I'll let you know how it goes. My hope is that I'll be managing everything more efficiently on one platform and on the go. There's also other free apps available. Just look into it, and you could even create your own system on like Google Docs or Google Sheets if you prefer that, and just log all of that information. The most important thing is just tracking your expenses overall. So no matter how you do it, just do it. This will not only help you prepare for your taxes, but also make it easier to input your write-offs, whether you're filing your own taxes or working with an accountant. And trust me, you don't want to give them a whole bunch of receipts and all these 1099 forms and W-2 forms, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I hate you. And then they're going to overcharge you. So try to be as organized as possible for that. And speaking of taxes, if you're planning to file them yourself, I do recommend TurboTax. I started doing it last year, but this is what initially drove me to become more organized, and I still have ways to go. I used TurboTax, and I was starting to do a good job of completing all of my taxes. But then I was like, damn, I owe so much money. I don't like this. I'm doing something wrong. I wasn't doing anything wrong. It was just like I wasn't organized enough yet, you know? So I'm hoping, though, by the end of next year, 2025, will be the year. I'm confident that I will be able to do my own taxes. But on TurboTax, you can also do it yourself and then hire someone to like review it as well if you're interested in that. But yeah, I need to just improve my bookkeeping discipline and find like the method that works for me. That said, if you choose to work with an accountant, just make sure that they understand the challenges of managing your finances because you have multiple sources of income, which again is super common for actors. But if your accountant is not used to that, final thoughts. Here's the deal. Taxes are not the most exciting part of being an actor, but they're crucial to keeping your finances in check. By understanding just the basics, keeping track of your expenses, and using the right tools, you'll be well on your way to mastering the business side of acting. And who knows, maybe next year it'll be a breeze. Thank you for tuning in to The Brand New Actor. This is the end of season 1, episode 7, Making Sense of Actor Taxes, a wrap up of the introduction to branding. Next year, I look forward to bringing back season 2, where we'll dive deeper into materials, branding materials, such as headshots, resumes, websites, reels, audition materials, and so much more. My ultimate goal is to create a hub for actors in which you can connect with skilled professionals who can help support and grow their small businesses as well. By fostering a community of resources and collaboration, I aim to empower you, the actor, in your entrepreneurial journey. So if you're a photographer, if you're a website designer, videographer, or have any other type of professional skill that would help the actor to market themselves better, please get in contact with me, especially if you live in the local Miami area. I want to hear from you and I want to bring you on the Brand New Actor podcast. That's right, we're going to have guests in the next season. So let's connect and together we'll help actors thrive. And of course, I'd love to hear from you, my viewers. If there's a topic you'd like to hear about in season 2 or beyond, feel free to reach out and just suggest it. I'm always open to new ideas. And don't forget to tune in to YouTube or Spotify for all episodes. Thank you again for listening, and I can't wait to share more with you in season 2.